Greetings, Star Citizens, and welcome to Flight Deck. This is a weekly podcast about Star Citizen and other gamer culture topics. I'm your host, Link Static MDK, and with me, as always, is Paper Thin.
Yo!
I'm back to my old mic today because my new mic is pissing me off. So, I'll eventually get a better mic so I sound better. But for now,
Windows 8.
yeah, Windows 8 and USB microphones is a PSA to people. They don't mix, so watch out.
Yeah.
Alright, so today's topics we have Around the Verse episode 42, Reverse the Verse episode 45, 10 for the producers, 10 for an FPS producer, this is 10 for the producers episode 6, Terra Gazette for a Famine, and Bug Smashers episode 1. The Phantom Menace, or whatever, yeah. Whatever silent title you want to put. So let's jump right into Around the Verse episode 42. So this one was 35 minutes and 22 seconds long. New intro this week. So instead of the Empire Report, they did a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy style intro, which should be self-explanatory why they did that, since it's, Around the Verse episode 42.
Right.
Pretty good, all in all, I'd say. I like the fact that they poked fun at other game publishers of the old style, and etc.
Yeah.
Nice. We had some news that they mentioned in there. They said it was 80 million, right?
Right.
But like on Monday night when I checked, it was 81.5 million.
Jesus.
Right, yeah. So like in just 4 days they got $1.5 million,
Right.
US.
Oh, man.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, the hull ships are, really interesting and varied, so there's a lot of, flexibility, and you can just get that cheap ship. It was, what, $60?
Yeah, it's like 90 cargo or some such.
Right.
Well, with the hull series, they also had the cargo design post, and then they've also redone all of the cargo metrics for SCU and meters for the ship stats. Like I was talking with my brother, he has a 325A, and I think he went down to like 4 SCU. And I'm like, well, yeah, but my Super Hornet is 0, so you're still better than that. Although my Reclaimer is still pretty good. It's at like 6,555, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
Which beats a Hull C. It's also bigger than a Hull C, so it should beat a Hull C, right?
Right.
But then like a Hull D is like 20,000 something. So, same number of crew, it's just like a fourth of what the Hull D can carry.
Right. Well, that's still nice. I mean, it's good that they're standardizing this stuff. We're finally getting kind of more general ideas of how it's going to shape out.
Yeah, it's like 1.25 meters cubed is what they're saying the dimensions are for the cargo crates.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
To give people an idea, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially since that also takes into account like when you're doing cover mechanics and things like that as well, like they mentioned.
Ooh. Right.
So let's jump right into the Spectrum news for Around the Verse. We had Santa Monica with Travis and Darian this week. What they talked about largely was the fact that they're doing a shared item and vehicle parameters to reduce the overall load times. So the way it works right now, pre-shared item and vehicle parameters, is they kind of load every single fighter that's in the game on your map, just not where it's visible to you, so that you have all the resources available. Okay. So that's why we have these ginormous, ridiculous load times that suck. So the reason they're doing all these shared parameters is that will cut down on the overall amount of assets they need to load, and then hopefully reduce load time overall.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. They're also working on wingman commands, attack, defend, patrol, etc. I mean, they mentioned this previously, so that's not really a shock,
Right.
And that's in preparation for Squadron 42, of course. And then we also had the cargo prototype they're working on. Yeah, they have the 3D model revamp to show the actual cargo numbers, which takes into account the stats update that they've done. So they actually went through on every single ship, and they're like, all right, this is the space available. This is how much cargo it can hold in that space. And then gave us the numbers.
Awesome.
Which I think they're going to change, because if you look at like a stock Freelancer and my Freelancer Dur, it's the same cargo. But the whole point behind the Dur is you're supposed to lose like 20% of your cargo because of all the other stuff they put on it, like the fuel tanks, the sensor suite, all of that. So.
Oh, right. They probably just haven't taken that stuff into account yet.
That's what I figure. Like, there's probably internal workings that will adjust these numbers as they go along with several of the ships. But it's nice to have a general idea, you know.
Right.
Then at Ilphonic, we had Chad and David. So for them, they were talking about the breathing mechanic and how they have essentially two different breathing mechanics. You got the G-force mechanic, which we've been kind of used to with all the flying, and then you also have the FPS mechanic, which they did the whole design post on, where you can like hold your breath and shoot at the top and the bottom of the breath to get more accuracy, etc., etc. With that, you've got the stamina system that's been introduced, the gun movement, how the sway up and down, etc. And essentially, they're trying to make it look as believable as possible and feel as natural as possible, is their current goal.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. Although I think that's pretty cool. So then, I mean, will the G-force mechanic also like come into play when you're like boarding ships and like maybe the ship tries to just do a really crazy
Launch,
maneuver
yeah.
to like make you pass out while you're trying to board it and stuff? I mean,
Well,
that'd be
I've been thinking about that. Like, you can have some ships with like clamps and stuff, right? Like the boarding Tavaran ship that they've mentioned,
right.
which clamps on. So I assume that wouldn't get affected. But if you're just like trying to dock or something, all of a sudden the ship does a massive turn and like messes up your docking, would that,
Right.
I don't know.
That'll probably do some damage to your like docking equipment.
You'd think,
Yeah.
all of a sudden your tube is disabled or damaged or whatever.
Right. And I would assume people on the ship, like anybody on your ship, is affected by the G forces the same way whoever's flying it is. So
Right. Well, they've actually mentioned that is that one of the things they're working on is making the universal G-force effects and universal effects like that for everybody that's a crew on the multi-crew ship.
right, right.
We also have Austin with Jake and Evan. Their big news for them is they're working on the star map. So there was that leaked version that came out, if you remember, everybody on Reddit talking about it a while ago, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this has every star system, and they're like, oh, that's a mistake. So they've rearranged all those systems, and a lot of those systems are supposed to be findable systems. They're not necessarily known to everybody.
Right.
So they've redone that, and that also goes along with setting up delivery routes, what's going to be in Squadron 42. Right now they have a 2D version, and they're working on making a 3D version. And then once that's done, they're going to have a public star map that they're then exporting to the website. And that's a public release coming up. They said soon, but you know what soon means in CIG speak. It's
Soon means
2
a couple
years.
months.
Yeah. we remember, guys, we were supposed to get FPS back in March, so yeah. Soon, yeah. But FPS sounds soon too.
Yeah.
So then Foundry 42 was with Michael and Andrew. So that they talked about what QA is working on. Well, they got the public test universe that went live. They're currently collecting all that feedback and analyzing it. One of the more like testing breaking bugs that they've encountered was the Gold Horizon doors are locked and can't be opened when they're trying to do FPS. So they've kind of like figured out a way to subvert that and get around it for now so they can test everything else while that's being fixed. They also had Astro Arena Collision is missing, so people are flying outside of the bubble when they hit the edges, which is really funny too.
Funny.
And then they also want to do a cross-studio shoot-'em up, so hopefully that'll be something that they stream or have a video of. That'd be fun.
Yeah, they gotta stream it.
That would be well. I want them to stream it, but I also want them to do like a highlight because not everything's going to be exciting on a stream. And who do you follow? When you got like 30 people playing. But if you take everybody and like you record all their video and you just take the highlights, I think that would be better.
Yeah, that'd be fine too, I guess.
I don't know, because there's going to be bugs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's gonna be tons.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what the big four studios. I think they need to add Germany personally, though. Like,
didn't they do it last week? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think so. I don't like. It doesn't seem like Germany's. I don't think that Germany's established enough, and they don't have enough space in that office, just from what they've shown. So they'll probably add them when they get a bigger office where they have more room to do that stuff.
Yeah, that makes. You're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. Then after that, we had one of the user-submitted videos. It was submitted by Jaeger Sauce, I'm guessing is the guy's name. FPS titled FPS Module or Not. It's two guys floating around shooting laser pistols at each other, and one guy shoots the other guy and kills him. It's something everybody's tried that's been playing the game, so
Right.
But it's still fun. Then we had Ben Lesnick interviewing Dan Tracy with a little bit more behind the scenes in the Hall series development. There is a larger video on their Facebook that they've linked for this talk between Ben and Dan, but I'm just going to go over the highlights discussed around the verse. So Dan Tracy, it's been a while since we last heard from him, but he's one of their lead technical designers, and he was essentially talking about how they were setting up the zones for cargo to make it fit for crates, how they do 0.25 per node, and then the boxes they wanted to have 1 meter grids, and they wanted a cover height of 1.25, and that got confusing, so they had to talk about it later, and it's actually 1.25 meter grids, it sounded like, instead of 1 meter grids.
Right.
So with that, then that they know the dimensions, they can actually specifically measure internal game stuff to get specific dimensions for, okay, this ship can carry this much stuff, this ship can carry that much, and so forth. The one thing that was specifically mentioned is the max of the Hall series, the Hall E, is going to carry the most amount of cargo possible. So that's been quote unquote officially announced now.
Really?
Yeah, so even a Bengal carrier probably won't carry as much as a Hall E.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, like an Idris, I think the like personal patrol model of the Idris only carries like half of what my Reclaimer does. So
Well, true.
And that ship's like twice as big, so.
Right. Well, that makes me kind of want to get a Hull E now, just to like say I have one.
But I don't think you'd ever be able to fill it.
No, I wouldn't.
Like, you could have a full-time job where you do nothing but like get cargo and like have a massive, empire of cargo stuff, and I still think you wouldn't use a Hull E. You really need like a giant org for something like that, where a lot of people are doing that.
Oh, I totally agree. I just want one to say I have one. Like, I would never use it. It would just sit in my hangar.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I got a Hull E. What's up?
Well, and then at the end of this, they actually had a badass screenshot of the Hull E hauling a bunch of like the starfighters and all of that, and like little containers, a la like when you see a truck driving down the road and it's got all the cars on it, like one of those dealership trucks.
Yeah, I actually did see that. Yeah, I know I missed a lot of this week's content because I was on vacation, but that was one I caught, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, apparently they talk more about that in the Facebook video too.
Nice.
But I haven't got a chance to watch it, so I'll probably do that later. After that, we had James interviewing John Schimmel, who's their head of video content. Apparently, he's had like several titles, and that's his current title. He was back from shooting out in England with Chris Roberts for like a week, so they're like, "Oh, we're gonna pull you in so you can talk about what it's like shooting all the mocap with Chris Roberts in London and all that." And he's like, "All right, so this is what's going on." So they're shooting at Ealing Studios, which apparently is where they filmed Downton Abbey, which was kind of weird to me, but okay.
Oh, I've heard of that. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
Well, yeah, it's one of those like period pieces. I've never seen an episode, but like you get stuff from people talking about it. So it's like a period piece of like back in the day when it was like servants and nobles and high, and it's a show that focuses on both sides of that in like period England. I don't know what year they're going for or anything like that, but
yeah,
we're a long time ago. So at Ealing, it's kind of interesting because they're like, oh yeah, they've got all the Star Citizen stuff, like this is where Star Citizen is located. Then they'll see like, this is Lady blah blah blah's dressing room right next door, something like that. So it sounds like the shooting's going great. They have a quote unbelievable cast, which he wouldn't tell us any actors, but he said it ranges from known to unknown. So I'm kind of wondering who are the known actors.
Right.
Actually, it was like, okay, who do we know is in England right now?
Right.
That's a like sci-fi actor.
Yeah, let's stalk Mark Hamill's Twitter feed and see what he's up to.
Yeah. Well, and they're shooting it kind of like it's a feature film, and like what he said was different between the way they're doing mocap and what has been done with mocaps he's done in the past was when they generally do mocap, they're doing it with one person in a suit doing all their stuff, and then the other person in a suit doing all their stuff, but it's all filmed separately.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're doing it like it's a feature film. So they have like pretty much everybody in the scene there all at the same time acting off of each other and rendering it, and they're able to look at what it looks like in the game while it's being rendered while they're shooting it.
That's super cool.
So like they'll have props and stuff which will be like a foam thing, and to them it's a stupid foam thing, but then they can look on the screen and it's like, no, this is a gun or this is a console, and they can see what it looks like in game while they're interacting with it with the actors.
Right. That's really, really cool. Now,
Yeah.
is Chris directing this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I
Yeah.
thought so.
Well, and one of the things I think John Schimmel says is Chris was born to be on set, and like he's having a really good time doing all this. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Chris was, involved in movies for a very long time.
yeah,
So it's very cool and very exciting to hear all that stuff. I mean, that's super interesting that they can basically render it all real time and
Yeah.
see it. Like that makes it a lot easier to do all that stuff, and it
well,
allows
yeah,
them
I'm
to
sure
be
it's super helpful for the actors too, because they're
right.
like, oh, here's this stupid thing, but what's it look like in game? Oh, now I know how to like carry it and handle myself, and like what it looks
Right.
like and how. Yeah,
Well, and even just seeing the universe that you're in kind of helps you get into it. You know what I mean? Like
right.
seeing the environment.
Well, plus
So
you're actually acting off of other people still.
that
It's
too.
not like, oh, I'm just acting to a foam baseball or something. It's, oh, there's a person there and we're talking and we're having gestures and they're all translated in game.
Yep,
Pretty cool.
it is.
Well, and one of the other things is they're living on a house that's like 4 minutes walk from the studio, and their living room they've set up as like a facial scan studio
Oh,
to scan all the actors. So they've kind of then converted their garage into a living room because the living room's got like 40 million cameras in it and like all this stuff for the actors that are constantly going in and out of, which I thought was kind of interesting too.
yeah. Huh. That is pretty
Uh,
cool.
they did show some behind the scenes footage of like people talking, moving, all that stuff, and then like it looked like combat boarding and exiting an Avenger cockpit too. So
Nice.
cool stuff.
That's very sweet.
We also have a new segment now called Ship Shape that Lisa Ohanian's doing. So they've cut out a certain segment, which we're going to talk about in a bit, and add in a better segment, in my opinion. So Ship Shape is going to be their segment where they pretty much just talk about ships and like new stuff up and coming with ships, which makes total sense because let's face it, that's what 90% of the time people want to know about, right?
Oh yeah, this is way more interesting
Yeah.
than certain other segments that we'll talk about later.
Ominous sounding. So the one they showed this time was the P-52 Merlin. It looks so much better. They just showed the exterior because they're still working on the interior, but it still looks like a toboggan, but now it looks like a cool toboggan.
Yeah,
Like
it
it's all
looks
sleek and yeah,
it
chromy.
looks a lot better now. Like it,
Yeah.
you're right. It looks way better. Like this is one of the things I happened to catch again while I was on vacation, just like surfing on my phone. I was like, oh, that's now I'm excited to have that in my constellation. Like,
Well, and like they mentioned in Reverse the Verse, which I'm kind of jumping ahead, but they're actually thinking if they want to allow people to buy the Merlin separately, like as
okay,
its own standalone ship. They're not
oh,
sure. But one of the designers that was there, I think it was, I don't remember if it was Calix or the other guy, was saying that there's certain limitations that the Merlin has compared to other ships. Like the radar is based upon the radar of the ship that was carrying it because it doesn't
right,
have enough circuitry to have its own in onboard radar. It
right,
just receives the telemetry from the mothership. So, you can get one, but it's not like you can fly it around with all the functionality that you would have, with a mothership. You need to have all these other parts that are then fed into it. So
sure,
that's some of the limitations for having one on your own.
interesting,
Yeah. Which I'm like, that's fine. I'll just put like two on my reclaimer, lose a little bit of cargo capacity, but be able to launch fighters when I need to.
right, right. I think it would be fine to sell them separately.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Then they had the outro, mentioned that Alpha 1.1.2 is on the PTU. Then they're shooting for coming out with that sometime this week, but, that's CIG time, so probably next week.
Yeah,
Yeah. Then they had a sneak peek of a bathroom of some ship. Who knows what ship it was. One of the things mentioned was there was toilet paper, and the toilet paper folds down into the ground underneath where the shower then does. So wouldn't that make your toilet paper soggy? And like,
Right?
yeah,
Why would you want toilet paper in space? I mean,
you really need a bidet.
right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
toilet paper, just it's too much extra space. Like there's no reason for
Toilet
it.
paper is so 21st century, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So let's jump into reverse the verse 45. This one was long. It was an hour and 11 seconds. So they have a new associate marketing producer that they introduced named Alyssa. Apparently, she and Lisa Ohanian had worked together back in Activision, and Lisa was like, "Okay, come work at CIG with me now that I'm here." And she's like, "Okay." So, yeah,
Hooray!
there you go. She seemed pretty down to earth, very similar like personality to Lisa, where it's like, "Oh, we like all these nerdy stuff," and like
Yeah,
that type of thing. So
that's good. They seem to, in general, have people who are down to earth for the most part. I
yeah,
mean, I can only think of a few who I didn't feel like they were, but I won't say name any names. No names.
no names named. One of the things they mentioned about the differences between the freelancers and the Hall versus the Hall series, because people have been asking about that apparently on the forums. The freelancers will be more customizable than the Hall series. The Hall series is meant to be a dedicated cargo hauler,
Right.
whereas the freelancer, you can, if you don't want it to haul cargo, you can make it a missile mode, or you can make it, oriented towards some other role. It doesn't have to just do cargo like the Hall series. It's meant to be something more customizable.
That's good, and that's something that I know you and I have kind of been concerned about. Is that okay? Well, what if I can just load the whole, series ships with a bunch of like weapon turrets or something instead
Yeah.
of cargo? Like, then why
Yeah.
would I ever want anything else?
Well, I mean, you'd still be like a sitting duck,
Well, yeah,
but yeah,
that's true. I mean, you'd still have less maneuverability and such, but
yeah,
it's good to hear that they are much more aware of the need for differentiation between the ships, because I think people have been concerned about that, myself included.
yeah. Because like, you'll just get the best of the class and then not worry about the others because there's really no point to get them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas if I could totally see having a freelancer like I've got now and gain a whole series later if I want to haul more cargo.
Right.
You know,
Bingo.
they
Yep.
they both serve different purposes to me.
Yeah.
They also mentioned that everybody likes Bug Smashers so much, so it's being made its own segment.
Dot dot dot.
Everybody.
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 Yep.
Especially these guys right here.
Yeah. We're just so happy about it being made its own segment. I mean,
Die-hard fans. I totally watched the first episode. No, I couldn't. It was like when I watched Geely.
You actually tried to watch that?
I tried to watch Geely. I had popcorn, I had a lazy boy recliner, and I had an afternoon with nothing to do.
Oh,
So I'm
God.
like, all right, everybody talks about how bad this movie is. I'm going to try and watch it. So I'm sitting there, popping the DVD that I think my dad got from Walmart for like $5. And then I start watching Geely, and I get like about 5-10 minutes in, and I'm just like, nope, I'm out. And I stopped watching. That was about what I did with Bug Smashers episode 1.
Yeah, I'm actually super happy they're removing Bug Smashers from Around the Verse, and they replaced it with a much better segment, in my opinion.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I still feel like CIG's listening to our podcast, man.
Oh,
Like,
this is clearly where they get all their best ideas from.
seriously, every
yeah.
time we were like, "Hey, you guys should do this," like,
Hold on. Broke my arm trying to pat myself on the back. Ow.
right? Yeah,
Ow.
exactly. Although to be fair, we never specifically mentioned they should make it its own segment. I think we were just more of,
I'm not sure if we did or not, because like in my head I'm like, oh, I totally mentioned they should just pull it out and make it its own segment if they want to keep it. But I don't know if like I'm making that up in my head because they did it, or if I legitimately thought that.
Well,
So,
let's go with you said that. All right. So
okay.
Then CIG should just like call us and hire us already. Like, come on.
Clearly
We're coming
they
up with
need
all
to
the
be.
good ideas.
Yeah. We're ideas. We are the ideas.
We are the hype.
Yep. Wow. And one thing that was mentioned by Disco Lando is all the fat people in the office are now on a diet and not happy, which is why he had less energy this week. And I'm like, oh, poor Disco Lando.
Oh no.
No, you need carbs, man. You need them. They're good carbs too, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh well. hopefully, they all get super sexy nerd action going down and lose a bunch of weight.
I
I
hope
don't
they
really care.
all
I
get
I want
healthy and
them to be
happy.
I want them to be healthy, but I don't really, care at the same time.
As long as they're
I
happy.
I want them to be happy, and I don't want them to have any bad stuff, but I also don't care that they're on a diet. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would guess it's probably their insurance company, like offering incentives for like people to lose weight or whatever. Like
Oh
they're
yeah, I'm sure there's some.
we have
Well,
that at my business.
yeah, I'm not gonna get into that because I know all the ins and outs of that crap. So I'm
Right.
not gonna.
Right.
Anyway,
We don't need
moving on.
details. Yeah.
We don't need details. So another thing they mentioned was Squadron 42 missions will allow players to select between different ships. It's not going to be every mission. And it kind of depends on the mission, but there will be situations where it's like, oh, I want to take my Hornet out, or instead I'd like to take the Gladius out, or maybe this time I'm going to take a Gladiator.
Right.
Whatever military ship is available at the time, and you can switch between.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Uh, Also, it sounds like the Cargo Olympics might actually be a thing. You remember, like, forever ago, they had that post about the Cargo Olympics, and, like,
Yeah.
people, that, depending on the way they go with designing, they might make it a thing. Or it might be one of those things that they make, like, a beta test level and never actually release.
It'd still be fun.
Yeah. Apparently, like, they were saying that they also had a buggy racetrack that they use, but they don't have released. I'm like, I want a buggy racetrack, dang
I
it.
want a buggy now. Dang it.
Yeah, they sell them for like 15,000 UEC, I think.
I know.
So,
I have enough to buy one now.
oh, I'm not gonna get one. It's not worth it. Also, Calyx stopped down for a bit. Currently, he's working on the repair and exploration mechanics. With that, he also mentioned they're trying to do a radar mechanic that's non-combat oriented. So, like when you're just flying around and you're like looking for stuff instead
Right.
of like ship-to-ship radar.
Right.
So
That
that'll
makes
be cool.
sense. Yeah.
And this is where they also specified the SCU is 1.25 meters in all directions because it wasn't quite clear from the talk Dan and Ben Lesnick had. And control balance is upcoming. Apparently, there's going to be a summit, talking about how to better balance controls, which is their quote unquote favorite topic, which was said dripping with tons of sarcasm. So,
I don't feel
Well,
like they're in a super horrible place right now.
well, like you still have the issues with joystick versus mouse versus gamepad versus, whatever. It doesn't, like, the mouse gimbal is so good, joystick gimbal non-existent.
Right.
I'm a joystick guy, so for me it's really not worth it to have a Super Hornet with all these turreted stuff because I don't really make full use of them.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, and I thought they kind of addressed that with, the fact that if you were using a gimbal, you had to use a size, lower
Yeah.
weapon or whatever. So I thought that was okay, but maybe it's not. I don't know. That's fine. I mean,
I don't-
they'll figure it out.
There's always going to be balance, and they're never going to get it perfect
Well,
because it's
right.
impossible to get perfect, frankly.
Right.
They also were, mentioning the Merlin might be its own standalone ship, which we talked about before.
Right.
One thing is Travis came down, and for like the last 5 minutes, he just fired off all this like FPS questions because people have been dying to know FPS stuff. So half of my reverse the verse notes are all about FPS because I'm like, whatever. Ooh, FPS. Type. What's he saying? Give me more information,
Right?
Travis. I need to know it all.
Seriously.
So let's jump into some of the notes I took. So they're trying to keep guns to a realistic size. And with that, they're going to reduce the size of grenades because they're a little too big right now. They just don't look quite right in hands.
Yeah.
Also, with that, they're also trying to keep the recoil effects and all of that to a legitimate, what it would look like, how it would feel.
Sure.
You can sneak and appear on radar less while sneaking, and it is easier to sneak while in light armor and with a light loadout.
Okay.
So, that's been confirmed, which was kind of, duh, but at the same time, I feel like these things need to be said, or people are going to be like, well, what if
Right.
I have 2 accounts and the one account, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then you also have bots are being developed for later, but when the FPS first comes out, we won't have bots. They've mentioned that previously, but that's a rehash. They
Right.
want to develop bots specifically for Squadron 42, obviously. So
Right.
that's a big thing coming up, but it's not going to be for right away.
Sure.
Uh, version 1 will have an attachment system, which will allow for gun customization, but that will not be coming out with the FPS launch. That's a later on thing. So their attachment system will allow you to interchange parts like scope, silencers, barrel,
Yeah.
muzzle, all that junk.
Right. Awesome.
Laser, and then he listed like all the current stuff that will be coming out with the patch. So let's, this is the stuff off the top of his head. He said there might be more, but this is everything he could think of. Laser pistol, combustion pistol, electric shotgun, ballistic submachine gun, laser assault rifle, burst cannon, sniper rifle, shield barricade, electric claymore, hologram, med kit, frag grenade, EMP grenades, force propulsion grenades. So
Ooh,
that's a
force
lot of
propulsion
gear at
grenades.
start.
Yeah. Very cool.
Well, and the force propulsion grenades are apparently they're okay for Gold Horizon. You might as well just use a frag grenade, but apparently in 0G they're amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to try one out in 0G
Right.
to see what it's like.
Exactly.
The crossbow is also in concept stage and it's not modeled yet, so it will not be at launch.
All right.
They also were mentioning some general questions about the people that work on FPS. Apparently, one of the Q&A guys in Ilphonic did some tours in Iraq, and they also have a lot of the mocap people are former military. I know we've mentioned the mocap people before. I didn't realize that one of their Q&A guys was also former military, so that's pretty cool.
That is pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was Reverse the Verse 45. I just saved everybody about an hour, so you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was a lot to sit through. I mean, I like the format of Reverse the Verse, but at the same time, it's almost like they're herding cats, trying to get everybody, around and talking.
Yeah.
So,
I appreciate that they do it. I mean, it's so hard for me to find an hour where I can just sit down and watch it.
I forced myself to do it, although I kind of regretted doing it the night I did it because I had so much else going on. But I forced it.
Right.
So let's talk about 10 for an FPS producer, which is 10 for the Producers episode 6. This one was 1747. It was just Travis on his own. So we already talked about some of the FPS updates from Reverse the Verse, and here's specific backer asked questions about FPS. So it was pretty sweet. That I watched those back to back. I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Nice. Yeah.
So first question, kind of addressed during the Reverse the Verse: will it be solo versus MPs or versus NPCs? Wow, MPs. Wow.
MPs, military police.
Yeah. Wow. Good luck, guys. Good luck. So will you have solo versus NPCs, or it will be multiplayer only? How will that work? Multi only at start. Eventually bots. They already explained about that in depth. They also have maps requiring both flight and ground combat. Will that be in the game before we have a PU out there? And he's like, yeah, we're actually designing specific maps with that in mind. One of the things they talked about forever ago was the capture the Idris. So they'll have two teams that start out flying fighters, and then they get aboard the Idris, and then they got FPS fight for control of it and then take it. And that's going to be a match where you've got both flying and ground combat all combined.
I am so excited.
I know, right?
I've got this huge grin on my face where I'm just yes.
You're just give me a second while I mute myself and fap for the next. Yeah. It was.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the thing. This was one of the best 10 for the producers that I've read in a while because the questions were legitimately good.
Yeah.
So question number 3: interacting with the immediate environment. How will we be interacting? Will there be limited? What's the type of interactions we will do? So they've got a lot planned right now and probably more in the future. For example, if there's doors, you can open and close them. Lights, if you throw an EMP light in a room, you'll see the lights go out in a circle around the EMP, that type of thing. They'll have sliding, sliding into cover, vaulting over stuff. You can turn on and off the gravity, that type of thing. So
yes,
quite a bit of interaction.
So cool.
I'm hoping eventually you get shape charges that blow open walls in certain sections and things like that too.
That would be nice.
They also talked changing equipment and armor in V1. So they've got a variety of weapons and armors that will come out, and then with V1 you'll include the attachment system, which will allow even more customization, which he mentioned in Reverse the Verse, but he kind of went more in depth here, where it's maybe you've got multiple types of armor, or maybe you've got different materials you want to try out, or different items that you want to attach to the armor, that type of thing. So
Yeah.
he didn't give any specifics, unfortunately, like this is the Mandalorian plate armor or anything like that. So
This is stormtrooper armor. Don't wear it. You're just gonna
don't wear
die.
it. Yeah, yeah. This one actually attracts blaster bolts. Yeah.
Magnetized, like.
Then he talked a little bit about fatigue and FPS, some of the visual cues and how it will affect you, and how your loadout will affect it, and how all of these things will go into how your actions will be affected too. So, you wear heavy armor and you have a heavy gun, you're going to run out of breath quicker and your sway is going to be greater, that type of thing.
Right.
Also, player clothing and armor damage system. I thought this was the best question ever. Like, I was like, oh, this is a great question, and I want to be friends with the guy who came up with this question. And I want to be friends so much I forgot to write his name down. So his question was, now that it's a physics-based damage system, how will the type of armor you're wearing and the clothing you're wearing affect how you are damaged? Right?
Right.
So the short answer is yes. The physics will determine the types of damage. So, like, your different items and armor will behave differently depending on what type of damage you take from what. And also with the guns and their modifications, they'll put out different types of damage as well. So, like, if you're really good and you aim for the joint area of a piece of armor where, like, it's soft and not heavily plated, you will do more damage than if you hit on the armor plated part itself. Because what happens is the bullet will hit the plate, do damage to the plate, and then either be absorbed and go through, or deflected, and then the skin underneath has its own value for what it will absorb, and then that damage will translate into how much damage you've taken to your mobility, etc., etc., etc.
Sure.
So awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, I figured it'd be somewhat like that. I mean, just because we've had so many FPSs that already had pretty good ideas of damage locations versus, okay, I have armor on my chest. If I shoot somebody in the chest, it's not doing as much damage as if I can hit him in the head where it's
right.
unshielded. But if I hit him in the back of the head where they got a helmet, it doesn't do as much damage, that kind of stuff.
So the difference between that and what Star Citizen is doing, the way it sounds, is like with, like, say, Call of Duty, you've got a general metric number that is as known. So, like, your body armor absorbs 50 damage,
Right.
we'll say, right?
Right.
This will be, okay, you've got a body armor, but that body armor type is titanium.
Right.
Versus adamantium, versus whatever. And those are all known figures that will then be applied to whatever the damage is input. So they'll have like a giant list, and this is what the ratios are, and these are what the numbers are for that type of material. And then apply to that when it looks up. So it's doing that every time you're hit by whatever.
Right, so. And on top of that, it's also doing damage to your limbs and other things. Like, if you get hit in the leg, your movement gets limited, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's taking on previous ideas and expanding
making
on
them better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I thought that was such a good question.
That is a very good question. Yeah, absolutely.
Next question after that was design factors in the FPS arenas. So, like, are you designing maps so that they can be used for a variety of purposes, or are you designing them with specific purposes in mind? And with that, are you going to, like, put an emphasis on choke points? Are you going to put an emphasis on, like, open area combat, that type of thing? And he's like, well, our designer who's in charge of it is like, I don't want to design maps with multiple purposes. That's lame, and it tends to make the maps suck.
Right.
So he's designing each map that they've got with the specific function in mind of what they want to design for. So Gold Horizon is an FPS combat map. It's not a capture the flag map. It's not a bomb map. It's not a whatever map. It's an FPS combat map. So there will be, like, choke points, and there will be a focus more, you'll have those choke points. You also have the open areas, and, like, there's a variety of ways people can go to mix up essentially how you're going to come into combat, and it's not going to be the same every time, and you'll have to use strategy and think, etc.
Yep, thank God they're going down this route. That's something that makes a lot of sense. You don't want to have a free-for-all map that's also a bomb map. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
This doesn't play right.
Well, yeah. Well, and then after that, they also have a variety of character models, hangar animations, and game demands. So with that, how is all this new stuff that you're putting in there going to work and look? So, for character models, you're really only going to have that stock bald white guy that we've got right now. With the hangar animations, there will be some improved animations coming with the FPS, so like doors opening and stuff like that. And then for game demands, it's probably going to tax our graphics cards at start, just like when they first introduced the ship combat. It wasn't fully optimized yet, so
Right.
yeah, there you go.
Cool.
And then they also talked about player population and the cloud, how you handle the player pop explosion that's obviously going to happen once, the FPS drops, because everybody will be wanting to play FPS. So, for that, they kind of talked about the new system they've got in place. Well, Travis is like, it's either going to work perfectly exactly like we designed it, or it's going to suck and we'll have to fix it. They just don't know yet.
Right.
Hopefully it works well, but if not, then they'll have to fix it when they put it in PTU.
Right.
So.
Then we'll find out.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's a good question, but at the same time, it's hard to answer because they've
Yeah.
never been able to test it.
Exactly. Hopefully it works great.
Right. At least they're aware of it.
Yeah. And then last question was about alien weapons in FPS. Will we have alien weapons? And the answer is yes. Eventually we will have alien weapons and alien-inspired weapons, etc.
Oh, yes.
But, that's way down the line after everything's working and, they start introducing the other races.
Right.
So, what you think?
Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I mean, overall, I really liked it. I like the questions. I think they're going in a great direction. So,
Yeah,
can't
it's...
wait to play it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was pretty excited.
Yeah.
So after all the stuff that people cared about, let's talk about some stuff people don't care about. So we had the Terra Gazette for a famine. So this is another one of those history / news / whatever blog posts that they do. So on Hyperion, there's a food shortage and people are, starving and having to wait long times in lines with not necessarily gain food. And there's also a black market that's booming because of that for food on Hyperion, but it costs too much for them to actually survive off of it.
Aw.
And with that, of course, you got the government being ineffectual and arguing about budgets without actually helping the people. That sounds familiar. I wonder where they got that idea.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. And then with that, too, you have private investors who are, essentially doing missions of mercy and sending cargo. And there's also mercenaries escorting the cargo to make sure it gets there. So, to me, it was kind of this is something that we're also thinking about incorporating into the game. What do you think?
Right.
And sure, why not? I'll do some food runs.
Yeah.
Or I'll steal the food and then sell it on the black market. It's
Exactly.
yeah, it's
I think it's just another good kind of like mini idea that branches off of the main ideas of the game.
yeah.
There's cargo shortages sometimes, and people will take advantage of that if they're greedy. And
What we should do? We should be super evil. Steal the food, what we can, but just blow up everything else. So they can't even deliver it. Cause massive.
Just let it float there.
Oh,
Or we go and eat it and videotape it and send it to them. This is
with
your
a
food.
herald. It's
So good.
strawberry shortcake. Yeah. You got one of those cheese whiz canisters that you just empty into your mouth, and you're like, nom, nom. Yeah. So evil, so evil.
So good.
And then after that was Bug Smashers episode 1, which I watched 4 minutes of and then stopped watching. So I'm not even gonna talk about it.
Why would you do that?
Sorry, I apologize. I got far enough that he was talking about what the bug was, and it had to do with multiplayer and when one person ejects and then their client leaves and how it messes up the threading and the other guys can't really do stuff and blah blah. I think we hit that bug one day.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't care enough to sit through it.
Yeah, it's if people want to watch it, I'm glad it's its own segment now, so I don't have to put up with it.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain we're never gonna watch Bug Smashers again. I apologize if that offends Smashers of bugs.
If you listen to this podcast for our interpretation of Bug Smashers, maybe just to listen to us rail on it, You're gonna be
They're
disappointed.
gonna be like, oh, dang it, Flight Deck
Dang
just
it.
cut my favorite segment, which is them railing on bug smashing. If that's the case,
You know what?
you know,
Post it. Post it in the
post
comments
it.
or something, and
Yeah.
we'll watch a trail on it. Like
Oh yeah.
I'll do
If,
that if
I
you
will.
want.
I will. You know what we should do? We should do like a live stream watch of Bug Smashers and just like talk about it. Do like a mystery science theater, you know?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, that's a good idea. I'm actually down for that. Like,
okay.
I would totally do that.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
It
Let's
was
do
only
it.
like 8 minutes. I mean, if it stays about that long, I'm willing to devote like 8 minutes a week to making fun of Bug Smashers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You got any other? I know you got other news, so I'm just you. What did you do for fun while you were on vacation?
Oh, right. Yeah. So I went to the Kentucky Derby with my
Yay.
dad. Yeah, it was really fun. Really cool, really interesting. Like I wasn't aware of how like complicated like the information they give you on the horses is, like to bet on. Like
Oh,
I
they
figured
tell
they
you everything, right?
Oh my god, it's crazy. Like there are literally like 40 different stats on each horse and like they have this like reference guide so you can like see what the numbers mean and all this other stuff. Like they tell you what like drugs the horse took the day of the race. Like you have all of its splits, what place it was in the split when it took, when it was there. All the races it's done, all the horses it's raced against. It's just it's crazy. Like I just couldn't believe it. Like the first like half a day I was there was just me being like overwhelmed and trying to learn all this stuff. And of course my dad, who used to own and train horses, like knew all this stuff already. And
Right.
he's super competitive, so like he doesn't tell me any of this stuff because he wants to like, win more money than me in the betting. And so like he's just like going through and doing stuff and like not telling me anything and just like I'll ask him and he'll tell me, but like he didn't like offer any help. He just
Right.
like he's just like, here you go, good luck. In typical like my dad fashion. Just like, here, kid, I'm going to throw a baseball as hard as I can at you, catch it. And if you don't, it's your own fault, and we'll put some meat on the black eye you get. Like, that's my dad.
In all fairness, though, that's pretty. That's that's fair.
It's fine. I don't complain.
It's fine. My childhood was horrible, but it's fine.
It's fine. No, it was totally funny, like, because it was just so classic my dad. Like, I was just like, yeah, you're not going to tell me anything. I'm on my own here, so which is fine. I enjoy that in a way.
See,
but
my relationship with my dad is different, where it's like we will help each other because we're making fun of other people.
Wow.
That's our relationship.
I mean, my dad and I will kind of do that sometimes, but we usually just like talk sports and stuff. Like we're both pretty into sports, but it was super cool. Like it's something I think a lot of people would enjoy that don't realize they would enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like you don't have to go there and like drink. Like I barely had any alcohol. Like I was just so consumed with like the betting and the races. Like I got so into it, I like totally forgot.
I feel like the finger method would be really powerful.
It depends on which race it is. So
People
sometimes,
are like,
yes.
What's the finger method? I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to leave it.
No, so it's a method of randomly choosing stuff if they didn't like figure that out.
Yeah.
So yes and no. It depends on the race. Like some races where it's like horses who've never really competed in like big time races before, yeah, you can kind of do that. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, like in races where these horses have had quite a history and are like known commodities, no. Like you have to know like what kind of tracks they like to run on, like how their splits compare to the other horses in similar conditions, all that kind of stuff. Like that actually matters.
So how did you do? Did you do well?
No, I did horrible.
Awesome.
I lost a couple $100, but whatever. Oof. Fine. I went in there with a set amount of cash.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's all the cash I had to bet, and I actually didn't even run out of it all. I still had some left. I didn't bet enough because I was just, I was kind of testing the waters, not really going too nuts. So whatever. I had a great time. I don't care. It was totally worth it.
Oh yeah, totally. It's like, well, every time like I go gambling, if I do the machines, I just lose money. There's no way. Like.
Right.
That's why I'm like, I'm not going to spend more than like $50 on a machine because I know it's all going away.
Exactly. And that's how I came in with a couple hundred and that was it. I was like, all right, I can lose this much. Whatever. The rest
I remember the last time you and I went to a casino together, it was like we were on adjacent machines. Right. And like you went up like what, $100 or something, and I like lost all $50 of mine. And I was like, come on.
I know I got super lucky on that slot machine. I was just like sitting
Ah.
there and like 10 pulls in, it was like giving me tons of money. I'm like, oh,
And I'm
hey.
like, I'm done. I'm going to get drunk. I'm using the rest of my cash and put it in my belly in the form of alcohol. I'm
Right.
done.
And
Yeah.
then I bankrolled our buddy who was playing Baccarat and he won a bunch of money playing that, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is how gambling's supposed to work.
Yeah. Oh, I did kind of want to do that poker tournament they were doing, but like it didn't look that well put together, so I was kind of
Oh.
like, nah.
Yeah, those are
On
tough.
second thought, nah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I used to play a lot of poker, but I don't know. I kind of got bored of it.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
what did you do? Did you do anything fun? Any movies? Did you go see Age of Ultron?
I saw it. Yeah, it was
What do you
alright.
think? Yeah.
Um, like, it like I liked the movie, but I also felt like the movie was unnecessary.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like they could have not done the movie, and it wouldn't have really affected that much to me. You know.
Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
You know, they had like some big reveals and all this stuff, but I'm like, yeah, but 90% of the movie is just kind of pointless and not really that entertaining. You know, but
Yeah. It
it
just
looked cool.
the Ultron story in general never interested me, even in the comics, and so I was just kind of like meh. In fact, the Avengers in general, I've been kind of meh on. Like,
So like I really like for me the ones that the top 3 Marvel movies that I've seen of like the 11 or 12 or however many they've done now would be the second Captain America movie. I thought was really good.
okay,
The Guardians of the Galaxy
yep,
and then the first Iron Man film. Those would be
okay,
like the top 3 to me for like in order of what was really good.
yeah, I really liked. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is hands down the best one in my opinion.
Well, like
Um,
the thing, like I think I have a skewed perspective because I don't always like James Gunn movies. So I went into it like, oh, it's a James Gunn movie. It's probably gonna suck, and then I liked it. So it was like,
See, and I had no idea like anything else James Gunn had ever directed, so like I didn't have that kind of bias. You know what I mean?
right.
But
Which is
I
probably
did have a yeah, and I did have a positive bias of Guardians of the Galaxy because it was like one of my favorite like lesser known Marvel storylines.
hmm
So that was cool, and I really liked the newer Spider-Man movies, but now they're canceling those for whatever reason, which I'm kind of sad about. I
Well, it's
really,
because they want to merge Spider-Man into the Avengers storyline.
I
Like they've got a
know,
deal, so they want to redo them, which I feel is a mistake personally. Like I felt the
yeah,
guy who was doing Peter Parker was a really good actor,
he
whatever his name
was,
was,
yeah,
Andrew
he was really
Garfield.
Andrew Garfield,
Yeah.
yeah, he was really good. And on top of that, like they had like perfectly set themselves up to like if they wanted to go and do okay, like some of the more interesting like Green Goblin, Hobgoblin stuff. Or
hmm
like I was really hoping they'd eventually do the Carnage stuff. Like no one's even like got near that because it's gonna have to be rated R.
Well,
Because like
here's the problem with Carnage is they have to first do Venom, and then
right,
after you do Venom, Carnage is just another version of Venom. So they don't want to do the you know
well,
they don't want to
sort
do the
of.
lead up and then Venom and then Carnage as well. Like if they were treating Spider-Man like they did the Avengers, where you have like the 20 movies, then yeah, totally you could do Carnage. But they're not going to treat it like that. They're going to do the 3 Spider-Man movies, right? And then the merge-in movie, and then that go from there.
Uh,
Like they've done with Thor, like they've done with Captain America, like they've done with Iron Man.
I know. I just want like a really good like rated R like Carnage movie, like something because like those are my favorite part of the Spider-Man stories.
Yeah.
Like it is so brutal and like so just awful. Like everything that happens in it is just like, oh, this is terrible. Like, oh my god. But
The only like comic that I'd like to have like that is the Killing Joke. That's the one I would love to
oh
see the most. Like
yeah,
even if they did it as as a shorter part of another overall movie plot, like it was a
right.
subset plot, that would be fine to me. Like I just want to see that in a live action done well.
I would love to see that too. That's probably my all-time favorite Batman storyline.
Right.
It's so good and
You've heard of some of the so some of the parts about like the end of that is people are like, I think Batman killed the Joker. Like the last panel, like people are
yeah.
like, did Batman just kill the Joker? Is that like but no, they didn't know. People have arguments about what happened. I'm like, I don't know. He could have just killed the Joker. It
I know.
looked like he might have just killed the Joker
I'm
there to
totally
me.
fine with it. Like I know it
Yeah.
totally goes against like but the thing is if you think about it, like there's no way Batman never killed someone. Like all the crazy crap that's happened.
At least not accidentally. At least
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Accidentally, he's probably killed at least one person.
Batman used to kill people like way back in the day when Batman was a newer comic. He killed like 6 people.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, no, I have one rule, and that's I can't kill people, even though it would save tons of lives and make total sense, and I'd get away with it. Like, but that's why I think like that's another one of those arguments for why they call it the Killing Joke. It's because he kills the Joker, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think so.
I don't know.
I tend to agree. I thought he killed the Joker. That's how I interpreted it.
After Heath Ledger did the Joker, who could you get to do the Joker? I think they've got oh God, who was it? They just had a picture of
it. Looked terrible.
Him in Joker makeup. Who was that actor though?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. He looked terrible. I thought though. I thought that was actually like not a cool Joker design. But nothing's ever going to compete with Heath Ledger now.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
It's just nothing will compete with that. That I don't know. I don't know what can. That
was just
so good.
So well.
Yeah, and I went into that wanting to hate it, like because I was like, oh, people are only raving about this because Heath Ledger just died. No, it was actually
so
really
good.
Yeah,
it was so good. Like I remember seeing that film and then being like, I want to watch it immediately again because it was so good.
Right, just like turn around, walk back into the theater, like hide so like the people that are cleaning don't see you.
Right.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. Well, and then they did Dark Knight Rises. I don't think you ever saw the third one, right?
Nope.
Yeah, you didn't care.
Nope.
I felt like that one was okay, actually. Like I felt I like Batman Begins and I like Dark Knight Rises, but I loved the Dark Knight. Those were
I mean, I didn't watch Rises like. And the thing is I really like both, Nolan and Christian Bale, like as directors and actor, and like especially now that I went and watched American Psycho recently.
Oh,
with Christian Bale. Oh my God, it's so good. He's so creepy in it. Yeah. But like, and I loved Interstellar, and but I don't know. I just haven't been able to like care enough. I don't know how else to put it. It's not really Batman's not in general my kind of thing. Totally, like I do like him, but
like if you were saying this about The Dark Knight, I'd be like, you're a fool. You need to watch it. But The Dark Knight Rises, I'm kind of like, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like it's the best movie ever because it's not. Although I'd say it's worth seeing for sure. I wouldn't. I would own it on DVD, but only if it was on sale when I bought it.
I mean, I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. Just like some night I'm bored and. Or somebody like you and I are hanging out, and you're like, "Yeah, let's just watch it. We got nothing else to do."
Well, that's how you saw Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So
exactly, yeah. Which was a great movie.
I really know. Liked it. Oh,
funny movie.
I can't recommend that movie far enough to too many people. Like everybody, I'm like, "Oh, you and I like movies. Well, this is a movie you should see. Oh, you've seen it? Good. Then you know what you're talking about. Oh, you haven't seen it? Then you don't know what you're talking about until you've seen it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's a good movie. Yeah, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty much it for me. I had nothing exciting going on. I've just been busy with work other than that.
Yeah, I mean, I had my 30th birthday. I'm getting old.
Yeah, you're old as hell now, man.
I know, man.
Loser.
Just wait until you join the club here in a couple days.
Yeah.
You'll be 30 by our next podcast, won't you?
Oh, easily, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be 30 before this week is done.
That's right. Yeah. So you have that to look forward to. I think it was pretty funny. So like kind of self-deprecating here. Like I was out with some people, and one of the people I was out with asked me if like I had any like goals or plans now that I turned 30, and I was like, I really don't. And I was kind of like, maybe that's a bad thing. Like, should I like?
What's funny is I did, but I already achieved those like.
Yeah.
A month ago, so I'm now like, oh, cool, I'm good. Yeah. It's like I need to do this by 30, and I was like all depressed about a month and a half ago because I wasn't gonna make it, or I thought, and then all of a sudden I achieved those goals, and I'm like, oh, okay, everything's good now. I'm set.
Exactly. I did. You're right.
I got another 10 years before I have to care.
Right. I have achieved quite a few personal goals, like professionally, and the only thing I really haven't done is gone to Japan, which I'm probably gonna do next year.
I thought you had a layover. At least you were in like a airport or something.
Yeah, I was in the Narita airport, which is in Tokyo, for like 2.5 hours.
You've been to Japan.
Kind
Goal
of.
achieved.
Right.
Living
kind
the
of.
dream.
Yeah. Yeah. Next year I plan on going there for an extended vacation, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I need another couple of years so I get another week of vacation, and then I can do that stuff.
Yeah, it's baller.
Uh,
Having
good
vacation is
times.
nice. Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
man.
Yeah, that's all I got.
That's it. All right.
That's it.
Well, we've thoroughly pissed people off because we've been talking not about Star Citizen for like a good 20 minutes. So I feel like we've accomplished our goal today.
High five.
High five.
Internet high
Virtual.
five.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh man, we missed.
Ah, crap.
Dang it. Oh well. Well, that is it for this week's episode of the Flight Deck. We will catch you guys next week.
Peace.